The West does not want Africa to develop. What a statement. Sometimes I see content creators putting clickbait titles and thumbnails saying, exposed, the West doesn't want Africa to develop. Yes, of course, the West shouldn't care about Africa developing. Yes, they do not care about Africa developing. If anybody is supposed to care about the development of Africa, it is us, the Africans, and the African leaders who are supposed to care about the development of Africa. If anything, it is in their best interest that Africa does not develop, because Africa remains a market for them. If we start manufacturing our own things, taking our own raw materials and natural resources and start developing them ourselves and creating our own industries, manufacturing our own cars, they lose twice, because they lose in having the natural resources, because I mean, if we can develop them ourselves and we are not dependent on exporting raw natural resources anymore, then it simply means we are not motivated to sell these natural resources at a cheaper price to the Western countries. And then so it becomes difficult for their own industry, because some of these countries do not have much going on in terms of natural resources. They actually depend on Africa to get natural resources. So it is in their best interest that Africa remains what it is today, so that they can exploit and take our natural resources at cheaper prices. And in turn, when they process these natural resources, they sell to us at higher prices when they are finished products. And also, on the other hand, Africa remains a market to them, 1.2 billion people. If we cannot manufacture our own cars and our own uh, anything, Africa literally imports everything from overseas in terms of products, right? So it is in their best interest to keep that market. If we develop our own products, then it means we are not motivated to import from them. So they will do whatever it takes to keep us poor, to keep us where we are, so that we don't become anything of significance, so that we don't develop our own economy, so that they will do anything. They will cause wars and keep on influencing our politics and funding terrorists and what anything, so that we can stay poor. And it doesn't help that we sit back and cry and complain, or take the moral high ground, like so many of our African leaders. They write big speeches and complain or try to change the world and say this what they are doing there is wrong, or what this and that. They like saying that they should care in essence about Africa. They should treat us this way and they should treat us that way. It's all good. I mean, it's worth trying, but we it's not enough to just talk, to just speak. It's not all about just talking. Action is more important than just talking. If we don't develop ourselves, if we don't stand up for ourselves, and so say no to so many of these things in Africa, if Africa continues playing this victim game that we always play, and taking the high moral ground and trying to persuade everybody else to be fair and be nice in the world, it's not gonna work for us. That doesn't help at all. Nowhere in the world that works. We can try. We have been shouting out loud, writing great speeches, and doing not doing much, but nothing is really changing. Africa is still exactly where it was. The world marketplace, it is a marketplace just like any other. It is player against player, country against country. So you ought to stand for yourself. Trying to complain, trying to raise all these issues is great, but we ought to be action oriented. We have to do something to change our economies, to start producing our own products. So talking doesn't help much. Some of the countries that are doing well, like the Chinese, they say less, they just act. You just wake up and then they've released DeepSeek, and the whole world will be like, oh, okay, they pay attention to them, but they didn't say anything. But our leaders are just good at writing speeches and going on those podiums and delivering those high moral ground speeches that doesn't help anything at all. And that externalizes responsibility. Once you say the world must be fair, the world must be this, and the West must also care about us and our plight and all this. You've externalized responsibility. If you say the West does not want us to develop, you have externalized the responsibility. Now you don't have the responsibility. You have taken power out of your own hands, because now the only solution then, if they are the problem, it means they must change. And it doesn't seem like they're willing to do just that. They're not willing to change anything. It's been decades and decades. I mean, the world has been around for a long time. They're not changing anything. We are the ones who are supposed to take the responsibility and also play in the global market and develop ourselves so that we can also become a great continent. I shall quote a quote from Kwame Nkrumah, uh, which says, and in the introduction of Neocolonialism, it reads, "The less developed world will not become developed through the goodwill or generosity of the developed neocolonialism powers. It can only become developed through a struggle against the external forces which have vested interest in keeping it undeveloped." He is literally saying it is upon us, it is upon ourselves to do something about our situation. It's a struggle, and we have to struggle. Like Samora Machel usually used to say, "A luta continua." The struggle must continue. The struggle must go on. It is upon us. We cannot expect them. They actually have the opposite interest. They actually want us to stay where we are so that they can benefit from this situation. So, fellows and brothers and sisters, we have to take the responsibility on ourselves and stop being victims, and the struggle must continue.